Beth. Welcome to the Teacher Biz Podcast. I'm so glad to have you. Your story is so interesting. And we, of course, connected through Leadpages. I love Leadpages. I talk about them all the time. My listeners will not be new to hearing about Leadpages. And then your personal business story is so connected to my business, my listeners, and their businesses because you do have a background as a teacher, which is so exciting. So I'm excited for you to share your story with my listeners today. Let's start by if you could tell us a little bit about your personal history, maybe what you taught and what that looked like for you, and then how you transitioned into having an online business.
Sure. I graduated from Florida State University way back in the 90s. So to put a little bit of an age bracket on me here. And when I got out of college, I had a history degree with social science educator, co-majors with a minor in math. And my initial dream was to teach history and math kind of at the same time. My first job was in Maryland, in Columbia, in a high school there. And I actually taught half-time as a history teacher. And the second half of the day, occasionally I would substitute teach in the math classroom. So I actually did fulfill that initial vision. But for the next 10 years, I wound up teaching US history, world history, and world religions as an elective. And along the way, coached the academic team. If you're in the Maryland area, you might have heard of It's Academic before. So I coached that team and also the tennis team for a couple of the years. But I loved being able to impact the minds of our youth. This was in the 2000s. So this was right around 9/11, right around No Child Left Behind coming on board. A lot of other stressors kind of came along. And by about 2005, 2006, I was trying to make some extra money because, as you know, teachers don't get paid super well. But I was trying to do so that I could stay in the classroom longer. But eventually, I wound up having a business that was successful, and the teacher world just got too frustrating to me to where I could not be as effective and as impactful as I wanted to be. And so in 2007, I retired from the classroom after a decade and took my business full time. Did that for several years. Business coach. We can talk about the things that I did if you like in a minute, Heather. But after a few years of doing that as an entrepreneur, I was approached by the founder of Leadpages, and I decided to join the team in 2014. So I'm in my 10th year now of being part of the Leadpages team officially. I'm customer number 33. I've been using it for a long time myself, and then obviously been part of the team ever since. So I'll just get into whatever details you find most interesting of that journey, if you'd like, Heather.
Yeah, I love that. I think so many people listening can relate to that story of wanting to have this impact as a teacher. And then maybe things don't go exactly how we plan them to. And definitely the financial aspect of trying to live on a teacher salary is so hard. So that all makes a lot of sense. And I feel like people listening are relating to you in that story. I would love to hear a little bit about your early years and your journey in online business and what that looked like for you, if you want to dive into that. And then we will get into all the good Leadpages stuff.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I had been making a little bit of extra money on the side, like I know so many people are right now listening. I did web design work for some summer camps for some of my colleagues who were running basketball camps or whatever. I had been working in the extracurricular, or not the extracurricular, but the curriculum design world. So summer times trying to, design assessments because those were coming along so powerfully at that time. And so I was, making extra money was not something that I was foreign to, but doing it online was very different, right? Trying to sell things to invisible people far away was really strange. But initially, I was attracted to network marketing. I was not very successful at that, to be honest. I was really good at getting people to want to know more about what I was talking about. So I was getting a lot of traffic, but I wasn't very good at actually closing and getting that, high revenue that people talk to you about. And so one of the things that triggered for me, Heather, was as part of that, one of those network marketing companies, they told me about a work at home mom forum called wham.com, which I don't know, how many people are involved in that to this day, but back then it was kind of a big deal. And I was like, but I'm a dude. Why would I go on workathomemom.com? But my upline was like, you've got to get on there. That's where a lot of business can be found. People are hungry for what we have to offer, blah, blah, blah. And so I started up a username on that forum of Bob the Teacher because I wanted to give the impression that I wasn't some skeezy dude coming in here to work at home moms forum, but I was like caring about families and kids and blah, blah, blah. And I spent a lot of time on those forums answering people's questions. And I was really good at helping simplify what made sense for online marketing, what tools to use, what autoresponders to use, what hosting to do, all those kinds of things. And I went to the conference for that network marketing company, and there was a group of women talking about this forum. And I kind of interjected myself in there, and I was like, hey, I'm on that forum too. And they said, whatever, dude. And they kind of ignored me. But one person said, oh, what's your username then? And I said, Bob the Teacher. And like all these heads whipped around, like, you're Bob the Teacher. You're so helpful. And that's when I knew like that was my brand. That was what I was going to be known for, was being able to simplify online tools. And so that's what my business turned into. Initially, I tried to sell beef jerky and dental plans and all these things, and none of those things worked out. Tried to sell pixels because back in 2006, that was sort of a thing. Those of you of a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. But it wasn't until I started teaching courses on how to set up an autoresponder, how to set up a mini site, how to do all these types of things that my business started to take off. And once it did, the magic started to happen. And I remember very distinctly, it was in middle of 2006, and I was proctoring a test for my class. And I had released a product a couple of days earlier, and it was just kind of getting off the ground. It was all about Squidoo. I don't know if you remember Squidoo or not. It was an online social platform for publishing ideas. And, back then I didn't have a sound on my phone, but, sales started coming in while my test was happening. And that's when like the idea of passive income really hit home for me, that I could put something out there in the weekends. And then during the week while I was teaching, money could come in. That was really amazing. And so after a couple of years of about 2 years of doing that, my teacher income was replaced and then doubled by my business income. And I was able to take that leap of faith of going full time. But it all started out trying to sell things I shouldn't have been selling, but learning that my skill of teaching things could be translated into a real online business. And then eventually adding business coaching to that and some other things that led me to have a very successful business before transitioning into an entrepreneurial role like I have here at Leadpages.
I love that. I think it always is that way where it's not the straight line to success that we think it's going to be. And it's this loop-de-loop path to end up in some different place than we ever imagined we would be. That sounds so fun to be in the middle of administering a test and then see your first sales come in. I know that is such an exciting feeling to be like, yes, people actually want to buy things from me that I created and put out into the world. So I just love that story. And I think the teachers listening could picture that happening. I mean, so many of them are still in the classroom and wanting to branch out and start their own teacher biz. And to have that idea is just so exciting. I love that. Okay, and so then from there, it just kind of continued to evolve. And now you are focused mostly on marketing tools. And specifically, you have your position at Leadpages, which is really fun too. So can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe a little bit about Leadpages? And I think my listeners know from me what they are, but maybe someone's new here and this is the first episode they're listening to. So maybe give us a little bit about what Leadpages is and what makes them so special.
Yeah, well, to me, it's special because it was a tool that really accelerated being able to make things happen online. So back when we're talking about, the early 2013 or 2012, this idea of making a website, you had a couple different options, right? You could hire somebody to do it for you, which like today still costs a lot of money. You could do it yourself using Dreamweaver, using Front Page. Front Page was my tool of choice back then. You could really do much, not much else. GeoCities, was the only real like sort of website maker that was kind of easy. And so Clay Collins was a marketer, very well known at the time, who decided to make it easier to take templates, turn them into web pages, and then help people build their email list and get an online presence. So I was really excited to see this because although I could do the websites myself, it took a lot of time and it was a lot of hassle. And using WordPress was really complicated. And so making it easy for people to get their businesses online was something that I was really excited about. And so I started to teach about it as an affiliate because I was using it myself. And any of you that are listening, if you find a tool that you love, teach about it, be an affiliate. It's a really great way to add revenue, especially as you're trying to figure out what business you actually want to run when you grow up. But I digress. So eventually I started, creating online videos for Leadpages as an affiliate. Then they asked me to create some help tutorials. At the time they didn't really have them. And so I started creating, how do you connect Leadpages to Infusionsoft? How do you connect it to Aweber, et cetera? And eventually the guy running it, Clay Collins, as I mentioned, invited me to breakfast because I happened to move to Minneapolis and he lives here. And he's like, we want you to come on board and do what you do, but do it in-house. So that's how I got here. So Leadpages still to this day is a way for people to get their businesses online faster. And if you're already online, it's a way for you to execute marketing campaigns without dealing with the headaches of WordPress security, of dealing with agencies or dealing with freelancers, all of which can be amazing. But isn't it even better if you are in control of your marketing? And so today, Leadpages is a lead generation platform that doesn't just do landing pages, but also full websites. And here very soon, even blogs, as well as being able to take any website that you control and turning it into a lead generation machine with different types of conversion tools. So that's what we do. And we also have a really great group of coaches and service folks inside of our team that are also not only allowing the software to allow people to do it for themselves, but we also have a team that's now doing for the customers those things that they might not want to do or don't have the time to do.
I love Leadpages. I think their help is so top notch, which is something I love. And I think a lot of my listeners are a little bit like me, where we feel like we're teachers and not so technical. And so I also love that it's so easy to use because you do not need to be technical to run an online business. I certainly am not. And especially with all of the help that exists now, it's so easy to be successful. So I encourage my students and my listeners to start selling their digital products on their own land instead of all those third-party platforms that teachers could sell things on for so many reasons. Keeping all of the profit from your sale and keeping the email address of the person who has purchased from you. And I could talk about that all day, but I have a whole episode. Actually, if anyone's interested in that, it's episode 4, why you should sell your products on your own website and not teachers pay teachers. But I think Leadpages is the perfect solution to that because you could have your first product and sell it with a single landing page instead of having to build out a whole website.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts on that and some benefits of using maybe a sales page to sell a product instead of a shop type listing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the idea of this being a yes and. If you really want to get out there quick and you don't have much traffic chops, then go ahead and put your stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers and Etsy and whatever else. But inside of the product you sell, make sure there's a link to a landing page to like register the product, right? To
And a
register for
QR code. You
updates
could put a QR code right on what
or
they print out.
exactly, or a QR code, whatever it is, just make sure there's a way to get people back to you because you're absolutely right. You don't get the email address of these customers for follow-up. And any business person will tell you the fortune is in the follow-up. That's not just with email, that's also with purchases. So first off, you don't have to get rid of those things completely. Just make sure there's a pathway to your own land, as you said. That being said, as soon as humanly possible, please do sell things from your own website. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. One of the things that I noticed from you, Heather, with your kindergarten ready types of product line and all that other stuff, which you have very simple landing pages that convert extremely well. And they do the job of giving people the idea that you know what you're doing, that they want what you have, and they have a way to take action on it immediately, whether that's joining your email list for a free, like how to do vacation time savers or whatever like you have with your winter seasonal kits and stuff like that, or the things that you buy at the bundles, all of that can be then packaged and sold. They're right on Leadpages. If you want to sell an ongoing thing, like you want to become a coach or you want to do some kind of service along the way, you can sell that on a monthly basis through Leadpages. You have the opportunity to grow an email list. So if you don't know for sure what you want to do as a business owner yet, you want to take action and revise later, put out some ideas of what you think you want to do, get people's email addresses, sell affiliate products through your email, through your landing pages you make with Leadpages. And then when you're ready, put a product out there. But the cool thing is that you can do this, as Heather mentioned, you can do this so fast without the technical headaches that you think that you might have to do. It takes you the first page. How long did it take you, Heather? Do you remember how long it took you to make your first page on
It
Leadpages?
took me a couple hours my first time. That was definitely the hardest one. And I was on there with the chat support for Leadpages. And I love they made me videos of what to do. So then I knew how to do it, which was just so helpful. So the first one probably took me a few hours, but then from then forevermore, I just duplicate one to make the next one, and it's so much faster.
Yeah. So, and just think about that though. A couple of hours, we're talking about a Saturday afternoon. We're not talking about a month of you coming up with the idea, finding somebody on a service platform, which are great, like Fiverr, Upwork, et cetera. They're all great, but you spend time going back and forth. If you can do this on your own, that makes that much better, right? So a couple hours for your first one, then maybe 35, 45 minutes for your second one, then 15 minutes for your third one. Now, every time you have an idea, guess what? Within the time it takes you to watch an episode of Suits on Netflix or some other show, you already have the chance to not only make the landing page, but make the email that's going to follow up to people and upload the product and all that kind of stuff. So it just really speeds up the process. And I love that it doesn't require a huge financial or time investment to see the payoff so that you know if it's working or it's not. And if it's not, you can make adjustments and you can decide to do a different type of product or a different type of list builder or something like that.
I completely agree. I think it is so easy to use. You're right. A Saturday afternoon and your product can be ready to sell, which is really just a game changer. You don't have to know how to code anything. I do not. You don't have to know how to do anything that's like super in-depth technical, which I know scares a lot of people away. And instead, it's just drag and drop and so easy to do. So I love that. It has been so helpful in my business. You're right. My landing pages are so simple. And what I love to do in my business is to really prime people via email before I send them over there. So they already know they kind of want it before they even get to the landing page. And that's done really well for me. Do you have any advice for someone who's creating their first sales page?
Yeah. So the first thing is you have likely heard the question asked of you, how long should this essay be? Right? You've done that in the classroom. I don't know if you did this yourself, Heather, because you might have taught younger kids. But for me, in ninth graders that I taught, the first question I get asked is, well, how long does this have to be? And the answer is as long as it needs to be, but not any longer. And so with sales pages, what people usually get stuck on is they don't realize that they don't need 50,000 words to sell the product. They need to have a good benefit driven hero sections. That's the top of the page that speaks to the transformation that you want people to have, that they want for themselves. And then your sales page is just a series of sections that both explains the challenge they're currently facing, illustrates the authority that you have to solve that challenge, and provides the details, just enough of the details to get them to want to buy this from you and to want to buy it from you right now. So when you're thinking about making your sales page, you have three jobs to do. Number one is you have to explain to people that your solution is exactly what they're looking for. Number two, you have to explain that you are the person that is got the authority to provide it to them. And the third thing is you have to get them to make a decision right now. Whether that's a yes or no, I want you to put out of your mind. Because if you're like me, you likely didn't come into this world as a professional salesperson. You're not thinking that you have something where you've got to go knock on doors and sell, 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 sell. If instead you can do what my mentor Clay Collins and the co-founder of Leadpages said to me once, it's that's your job as a marketer is to get people to make a decision. It's not to get them to say yes. then you can be that educator who is trying to guide them to the decision that makes the most sense for them. And that's what your sales page should do. It should tell them exactly what I mentioned before, but get them to make that choice right then and there. And there are some techniques to do that with sense of urgency and persuasion techniques and so forth. But just from the high level thinking of it, be on that idea that your sales page's job is to get people to say, I want this, or this is not for me. The thing you don't want them to come away with is, that's interesting. I'll check on this again later, because that is not going to drive your business forward.
I completely agree with that. I don't know where, but I have a lesson where I said that if you don't have that sense of urgency when you're selling something, someone will think, "Wow, this is a great idea. I really like it. I'm going to save that for later." And then they never come back.
Yeah. And I will say this about urgency. There's two things to think about. The one is that superficial sense of urgency that we can put on a landing page, like a countdown timer, right? And there's a timer on Leadpages that you can put on that's either going to say by Friday at midnight, this thing goes away, or in the next 2 hours, this is going to go away, which is what we call an evergreen timer. Well, regardless of that, that's a superficial and but very effective way of saying urgency. And when the timer hits zero, the offer changes. The offer could go away completely. It could be instead of $47, your product's now $67 or whatever the regular price is. But that's one sense of urgency. The other sense of urgency I want you to imply and include in your copywriting, though, is how much longer are you going to wait to solve this problem? Because if you can help people realize that this problem isn't going to fix itself and that your solution will help them fix it as fast as possible, then that's what the sense of urgency can really be about for your page. And I would encourage you to have both of those inside of your sales page.
That is so good. That's such good advice. I think that's so true. The more that we could weave that in, that the urgency is kind of within your customer because they want to solve this problem that you're going to help them solve, that's just gold. Any other advice for someone who is just creating their first either sales page or landing page and logging into Leadpages for the first time? What would you say to them?
Well, there's so much there. So one is use a template. You can go into our template gallery now and you can see sort by conversion rate. So normally when you go in our template gallery, it might show the newest templates or it might show the most popular templates. But when you click on the little link that says highest converting, you'll see over the last 11 years of being in business, which templates have risen to the top, and pick one of those in the top 6 or 9 of that gallery. Okay, so don't start from scratch and don't just pick one because it sort of looks good. Your job is not to look good. Your job is to convert your traffic into buyers. So use our data to see which ones are converting the best. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing I would say is psychologically, this is not going to be your last page. So one of the things that helped me out a long time ago for any part of business is when I realized that the first thing that I'm about to do should not be the last thing. And so don't put so much pressure on yourself to get it right the first time, right? It's going to be what it is, right? If you get it out into the world, hopefully it's the worst page that you ever make because after you make it the first time, the second and the fifth and the 10th iteration or versions of these things are going to keep getting better. And so my philosophy is take action, revise later. Don't get hung up on having it perfect, but instead getting it out there, seeing what really resonates with your audience and what converts, and then make a second page, make a third page, even from the point of your offer. The first offer you do may knock it out of the park. 99% chance though, it's not going to be your best offer. So your first offer is not your last offer. Your first webinar is not your last webinar. Your first sales page, your first landing page, your first product, any of it is not your last. So give yourself permission to do the best you can with what you got right now, put it out there, and then within the next 30 days, measure and test, and then make some adjustments so that you can continue to grow.
That is some rock solid advice right there. What I love about having an online business is that everything is editable. So if you make your sales page today and then next week you have a new idea, you can always go back and put something else in. You're right, it's a better strategy to test how one page is doing before completely changing it, but everything's editable and nothing is forever. So I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah. And this is also key of why you want to do this on your own land, because you can control what that link is. And so if you
Mhm.
send all this social media traffic to yoursite.com/deal, and then the deal that you have doesn't work, you can change what's on that page, or you can redirect what's on that page. If you put all this traffic and you send it to teacherspaidteachers.com/product/XYZ, whatever, and then you change your mind, all those links that you put up there are going to go to a dead page, or worse, go to a page that you don't keep updated, and then you get bad testimonials and all this other stuff. So make sure that you're publishing this kind of stuff on your own land, and revise it on your own land, and keep pointing things to whatever your new thing is, because that'll save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Yeah, that's a really good consideration. I hadn't thought about all those broken links out there that are probably costing people so many sales. So that is good to think about. Anything else that we want to say about Leadpages before we go back to talking just about you, Bob? Anything else that we want to say about them?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head. One of the things that we're really proudest about is our people, and that we feel that in this age of AI and in this age of all this tech and stuff like that, that those are tools that should be used, but they shouldn't be the end result. And so we've doubled down on our staff, on our expertise, on our ability to connect with customers, and to make sure that they know that although you can do things yourself with Leadpages, and we encourage you to do so, you're not alone in this process. And so we've tried to remove the solo and solopreneur, and we have a great support team that helps you. As you mentioned, some of them will even make a video inside your account to show you exactly what to do to solve the issue that you're facing or the idea that you have. And we also have coaches that'll help you with a strategy, help you with the implementation. Some of them will even do the pages for you if you want them to. Now, that's not free, of course, but it's a place where you know there's experts that know what they're doing, and they're using the product that you're using. So all that to say is that we're really excited about being a people first kind of company in this sea of artificial intelligence and inauthenticity that I think is really going to go out of balance here in this year.
I agree with you. That is my prediction for this year in this era of AI everything. Those connections and the people who genuinely care about their customers will win out. And if anyone listening is interested in trying Leadpages, you can go to teacherbizz.com/leadpages and get a free trial. And I encourage you to try that out, especially if you're someone who has been selling your products on other platforms. I think experimenting with selling it on your own land is a really, really good step. And if you're someone who's just getting started, it's also a good idea to have a free trial with Leadpages, test it out, and get your product out there into the world.
Yeah. And I would mention too, by the way, if you are using something like Shopify or one of these other platforms, I'm not discouraging you from using those. What I'm saying is that on those sites, you can use a Leadpages pop-up and put a little bit of code on your Shopify store, or any store that allows you with a little bit of custom code to be included. You don't need to know much about the code except for copy and paste, to be clear. But you can put that on those storefronts, and you can collect email addresses through Leadpages on Shopify or on some of these other systems. So it's not just about selling, it's also about building that email list up so that you have people to sell to.
Thank you for mentioning that. I love that you threw in there that you can just copy and paste the code, because I think some of my teacher listeners hear the word code and turn their ears off. So it can be that easy. I have copy and pasted code. I just don't have any knowledge about how all that works. Um, so that's really, really good to know. And I encourage people to try out Leadpages. I love them myself. What advice do you have to go to a teacher who's considering leaving the classroom, like we both have, and who's just getting started in their online business?
Oh, that's a really good question too. So for me, there's two things. One, I when I first started, I wanted nothing to do with education because I was burned out. And I think personally, my success could have been accelerated by doing something more teacher adjacent than abandoning it, completely. So if you feel burned out, like, give yourself the chance to think about what the burnout is really from, and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's a likelihood that what you are really good at in the classroom can translate into an online business faster if you stick to that and not just completely throw it away. So that would be one thing. The second thing is, it's very natural for you to feel guilty about leaving the classroom. And so I'm not going to encourage you or discourage you from leaving the classroom, because it's a major profession that I know that you got into this for the right reasons and all that kind of stuff. So we won't belabor that point. But if you are thinking about leaving, you're going to naturally feel guilt about, when do you leave? Do you leave after this one group of kids is going to leave? Do you leave after their sibling is going to come up because you really wanted to teach another part of the family? Are you involved in commitments in your school that seem like they're 3 or 4 or 5 years of a commitment down the road? All those types of things are pretty natural. And at some point, you put the oxygen mask on for yourself and you say, I take care of me, and that's how I'm going to impact the world. That's number two. And the third thing I would say, this is probably the biggest for somebody listening right now, and that is, whatever you think you're going to want to charge for your product, you need to either add a 1 to the front of it or a 0 to the end of it, because it's very natural, if you got into this teaching profession, that you're going to significantly undercharge what you're going to have, because it's just natural that we all as teachers tended to be taught that our skill set is not super valuable. You don't get paid super well for it. That's one of the reasons why I wound up leaving, honestly, was because I saw my colleague who was in his 30th year and where he was in the pay scale and where I was headed towards, even with a master's degree and all this other stuff, just didn't seem to make money sense to me to stick around for another 5 or 10 years to eke out, 2% a year in increased revenue. So the point is though, is psychologically, don't be surprised if you initially undercharge for what you're doing. And that's okay. Like, you can test things out. So what I always did, I didn't always do it. This is what I did that helped me, thanks to the help of a mentor, was after selling so many things, raise your price up. Okay. So it kind of depends on what you're selling. So if you're selling something that's, a digital product, every 50 sales, let's say, you jump your price up by 10% or 20%. Every 5 clients you might work with on a one-on-one basis, raise your price up 10 or 20%. And then just keep doing that. Keep raising it up. And if you ever took economics class, you learned about this idea of price elasticity, right? And so that's where at some point you're going to hit this kind of ceiling of what you can charge. And that resistance is going to tell you, this is about where my price should be to be fair in the market. Now, the likelihood is you can also then convey your value higher with better copywriting, better imagery, all that kind of stuff. But the point is that don't stick with one price, because it's going to be low. And either add a 1 in front of it or add a 0 behind it. And you will find that, especially this like sell certain number and raise your prices up, it will be a great way for you to ladder up your revenue by raising your prices in a way that makes you feel good and doesn't make you feel like you're trying to rip people off.
That is some really good advice. I think that's so true. We do undervalue ourselves and our education, and we just take for granted that other people know what we know, so it's not special. But people don't know what you know, and what you
Mhm.
have to bring to the world is special and worth being compensated for. So I fully support all of that advice.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now, Bob? What are you excited about? Let us know about that.
Yeah, so I run our affiliate program at Leadpages. So in addition to some content that I create and educate for people on webinars and things like that, I'm also overseeing our partnership, which is why you and I are connected. You happen to do really well in our Black Friday contest at the end of 2023. So again, congratulations on that. And so what I'm excited about is getting back out to teach in the webinar area. So for the last couple of years, I've taught a lot of webinars for our customers, but due to the pandemic and so forth, we stopped doing sales webinars because Zoom fatigue was the big thing and all kinds of reasons. And so starting this month, I have begun teaching webinars again for non-customers to educate them about online marketing and to get them to start a trial and to get them to start their Leadpages account. And so there's obviously a sales function with that. There's revenue being generated that I'm responsible for. But what I'm really excited about within that is I get to teach to a larger audience again with some really important topics and ideas on creating landing pages, creating online marketing presence, generating leads for list building, for sales, for growth, etc. And I'm really excited about that because, as you know, you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. And so it's really good to be back in front of audiences again.
That is so fun. I agree with you. I think as teachers, we come into this online space, and when we are put in a teaching role, we are so good at that because we actually know how to teach. There's so many people online teaching so many things, but you can tell when someone has a teaching background and knows how to scaffold information and explain
Mhm.
things clearly with step by step, whatever. And so that's really exciting to hear that you'll be doing that.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
exciting to hear the word scaffold being used in a pedagogical way. I think that's always a lot of fun. And within that, Heather, I'd love to share one more piece of advice that's related to what I just shared,
mhm.
and that is you have the curse of knowledge, and you also have the curse of teaching. And what I mean by that is, and it's taken me a long time to find this out, and I've resisted it and resisted it, but it is true. And that is, if you decide to do what you're doing and to teach it, there is a danger that you teach too much during free things. Okay. And what I mean by that is during a webinar, for a sales webinar or a Facebook Live or whatever the case may be, you may think to yourself, I'm going to provide an overwhelming amount of value and just teach the crap out of this topic. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except if it gives people the false sense that they can achieve their next step of success without your help. Okay. Because if you do that, then the transformation can't happen. If they truly can't get to the next stage they want to, but they feel like they can because you over taught them in a webinar or in a free e-course or whatever, then they never buy from you and they never see the results that they're looking for, which means they never turn into a great testimonial. They never become a good word of mouth marketer for you or an affiliate. They never get to help you grow your business, and their lives aren't impacted the way that you want them to. So as you do decide to teach in the online world, whatever it happens to be, do so in such a way that lets people feel good, that lets them get movement towards what they want to solve, but doesn't give them that false sense that they can do it on their own, because that's not going to pay the bills for you, and it's not going to actually result in their life transformation. So last bit of wisdom that I have to share with you about that.
That is really good advice. I think we do overteach sometimes and want to share everything that we know with people who come our way, but that is really good to keep in mind. Where can our Teacher Biz podcast listeners find you online?
Yeah, so if it wasn't obvious before, Bob the Teacher is where I hang out online, at Bob the Teacher on mostly on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I don't spend any time on TikTok at the moment. I have a YouTube channel that hasn't been added to in 10 years. So you can go see some old stuff if you really want to. But those social channels are where I'm at. And then obviously with Leadpages, uh, obviously start the trial, as Heather mentioned. She's got a nice link for you to do so. And I'd love to see you inside of our Facebook community there, asking questions. And myself and lots of other great people here internally at Leadpages can help you see that success that you are looking for.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this wisdom with us today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Heather. Thanks for having me on.